Next week, I believe, is the last meeting of the Airport Commission that Councilor McKean will be representing this council. We need to, January 3rd, I just want to get everybody thinking about replacement person for that commission, for that Airport Commission, January 3rd. Okay? Yeah.
I actually had some business, and it happens to do with the Airport Commission. So it was something that I've been meaning to bring up because I got this email back on October 18th, and I was a little busy. I don't know if you remember that, but it was an interesting email, and I followed up with the author of the email. And what? Well, it just ended up being more interesting than I thought. We had a long discussion on this council about meetings that we hold. That I think, Mayor, you mentioned the mayors and mayor pro tems and city managers that are getting together. And so we had a long discussion about what we do about those meetings and how we report back the meetings that we have. And I think it was important that we had that discussion because what we really did was enter into an agreement with each other that we're not going to have these meetings out there talking about various things that impact our city without bringing it back to the governing board of the city. So first of all, is everybody comfortable with that? And are we still doing that?
Sure. We haven't had meetings since, but yes.
Yeah, we haven't, the one you mentioned, we haven't had.
No, but I mean just in general, meetings that we have that are kind of off the books, because that's the nature of this email, and it bothered me enough that I took it to the author. And I'll read it to you. I had actually printed it out, but goodness knows I've got more paperwork these days than I can believe. But it's from a gentleman, Robert Howe, in Fort Collins, who is very active on the Airport Commission. And the email reads as follows. He says, "Good morning, Hugh. Nice article." This was after an article in the Reporter Herald. He said, "I met with Wade and Cecil last week, Wednesday, privately. For your ears only. I got agreement for Wade to take over chairmanship. Both agreed to form an authority with a taxing district. See you Thursday, Bob." So this email came on the public server, so I wanted to let Bob know that it was public. And I've actually been contacted by the Reporter Herald about it because they read it as part of our open email server. So number one, our emails are doing what they're supposed to do, which is informing the public of the things we do. When I mentioned this to Bob, his reaction was the most concerning part because he said, "Oh dear, Cecil is so clear with me that I'm supposed to use his private email." So number one, what's the private meeting? What does it mean that someone else might take over the chairmanship, I'm assuming, of the Airport Commission? Number two, what is the agreement to form a taxing district? And number three, how much of your public business gets done on your private email?
Very little. There are some things that get I get all sorts of things from all sorts of places in all sorts of ways, but very little. Now, the meeting that he's talking about.
But some.
Yeah.
Okay.
The meeting that he's talking about, there's no agreement to go to the taxing there is a committee that is coming up under discussion next week whenever we have our meeting, and and that's where that committee is supposed to take a look at that to see if that's the direction. Sustainability. We talked about sustainability.
And it's actually something that we've discussed, and certainly it's something that the Commission, I'm sure, will be ready to discuss.
Sure.
The concern, of course, is that a private meeting. So what about the chairmanship?
Well, that's the commission to decide who the chair is.
But hold on a minute, because this says I got agreement for Wade to take over chairmanship. Now, these aren't your words. I'm just saying this is someone reporting something to me.
Well, you'll be there. You can nominate anybody you want to. Okay. What I said was that I didn't want to be nominated for chair again. That was the discussion.
And I'm glad that if that's the course it took, because this sounded like there was an agreement that without the commission talking about it, and that was, of course, my concern.
Yeah.
Is that I'm very sensitive to how some of these meetings go. And really what I wanted to bring it back was the touchstone of us saying, look, if we have these meetings, we need to report it back. And I would say way beyond that. If we use our private email for public business, we shouldn't. And in that instance, if we are, then that creates a problem, because it creates, anything that takes things out of the public eye, I think is of great concern.
Most of what I get from them are, I get pretty pictures and all sorts of information. I get an airport that's got tons of solar. I get a lot of articles about all of the new technology and all of that stuff. That's mostly what I get from them.
I don't. I get everything to my city email, and it's important to me that I do. And I guess so the question really would remain, would you, well, I would consider this a notice of not deleting emails after today, because there may be someone with your acknowledgement that there are records on your personal email that may have to do with city business. So don't delete them. And if you've got some, I'm not saying I will, but there may be people who want to request those, because this is of concern to the city as a whole. Certainly it's of concern to the Airport Commission. And that's a charge that I consider pretty strong, because this is an agreement between two cities that has been tested over the years, as you well know. And so I want to make sure that it stays strong, because for that commission to be something that the public sees as a positive, productive entity, I think it's going to require that kind of trust.
The going to an authority is going to be a long, long process. So having those discussions is just a discussion.
Well, I appreciate it. And you can understand why I would have been concerned about this email.
Yeah. Got it.
Thank you, Mayor.